What's happening, everybody, and welcome to I almost forgot the name. ShowtimeForum postgame. Showtime, and look who's right next to me.
Hey,
the person that the best person to possibly have to lead off of a show. Ramona Shelburne. Hey, thank you so much for doing it. Yeah, this is what I do every single night. I sit here and I talk to people. Yeah, well,
NBA 2K.
I'm on NBA 2K right now. That's what you know. What the Instagram? I'm sorry, I'm trying something Instagram. It's mostly Momo anyway. Right. That's what everybody wants to see is Momo. But we are here to say
this is super weird because like we're on a little bit of a delay. It seems.
Yeah, you got me over here. This is what I do. Look, I got a Periscope feed. I have a YouTube feed.
Oh my
I have
God.
an Instagram feed, and if I
feel
want to
like
switch,
I'm at like Best Buy.
There's another one. I have a Twitch feed too.
Oh my God.
This is what we do every night.
It's like you know in Best Buy when there's like 12 TVs and they're all like 1 second behind.
Right. Yeah, you're like what's happening? Screens. See, the best way to do it is look at this one right here.
Okay.
And that one is right as I'm talking.
All right, got
you're
it.
talking.
Okay.
So that's
okay.
So the only thing that I leave this up here for is to read people's comments because that's what this is all about. ShowtimeForum postgame is all about what people want, and they're going to want to talk to you.
Okay.
Because you have to leave us in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, little man's got to go to sleep. But,
yeah,
you know.
We're going to see. You'll
see
Daniel.
at the beginning and then the end.
We're going to get a little bit of Daniel, and then we'll get a little bit of us, just you and I, back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth.
But Ramona will be here, so I got, let's say, SoCal09 here for Mama Momo, and you too, Greg. And you too, Greg. Congratulations, Greg and Ramona. Thank you. Ramona is all class from the Toy Man one. Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
All right, ask me questions, people. What do you got?
She's got 15 minutes, so I'll get into everything that happened with Lakers Raw. I'll get into everything that happened with Dodgers Nation. But right now is all about Ramona time. So let's get into what you want Ramona to ask or do you want Ramona to answer. And we can just start off with what are we actually watching with the Lakers right now? What is the point?
Auditions?
Yeah, audition. Well, is it auditions? Because you're seeing Caruso and you're seeing, who else?
Well, I think you know that you kind of know what Caruso is, right?
Right.
I mean, he's a really solid player from the G League who comes up and can give them some solid solid minutes. I've actually always thought that he could do more. He has like Dellavedova type qualities to him. So if they needed an extra point guard in a pinch, you can call him up. He's proven he can sort of fill in that way. But I think this is time for guys like Kuzma to really, that's your time to shine, right? KCP. He's at the end of his contract. He had a nice game tonight.
He did have a nice game tonight, but does that matter?
Yeah, he's been on one-year deals successively, so he's sort of auditioning for whatever job he has next. Might still be with the Lakers.
Okay, so
not
with the lineups. You talked about Caruso already being up here, and you can understand why was he not brought up as soon as Lonzo got hurt?
I don't know. I think that's a weird question, right?
Right.
And I know there was some question about. Obviously they would have Brandon Ingram handle the ball a lot. They would have LeBron handle the ball a lot.
Right.
So there was this idea that you could sort of fill this from within without having to promote someone from the G League.
Right.
But
I mean, you're seeing what you're seeing from Rondo. Rondo is a negative player on the floor. He's a bad defensive player.
And what's really weird, at least on my end, and just sort of watching the team and in a Laker, as we cover the team,
right?
It always seems like there's this. They don't really like when they announce initial injuries. There's sort of like an unrealistic expectation of how long people are really going to be out. I mean, we Om Youngmisek, who covers the Lakers on the road all the time for us, and at home we were kind of going through and charting like when the Lakers would put out a release on how long LeBron would be out and how long Lonzo Ball would be out and stuff like that.
Right.
How long they actually ended up being out. And most teams usually will overestimate that. But the Lakers, since the Rob Pelinka, Magic Johnson era have started, every single time they're really underestimating that.
Right.
And we can't really get a good read on why they do that, except that it just seems to be Rob is a guy who tends to want to say less, right? And there's a overly optimistic take on injuries, and so it's a strange thing as a media person covering them because I'm almost used to everything being like 6 to 8 weeks, and then they come back 4 weeks later.
Right. So you were talking about it on the radio today. It was like they're over promising and under delivering, which is not what you want to do.
Like
you want to do the opposite.
For example, the day that Lonzo was shut down.
Yes.
Right. Lonzo had a doctor's appointment that day with the team doctors. I think it was a 3 o'clock doctor's appointment for a 5:30 game.
Right.
And at that meeting, it was already kind of a foregone conclusion that he was going to be shut down. But it was like the doctors wanted to take one more look at him, and he had an ankle injury that was pretty severe. It was a grade 3 sprain.
Right.
And that's not a...
That grade 3 is,
like
it's the reason that it goes 1, 2, 3. It's like it's a higher...
that's the word.
Yeah.
So the Lakers were out of contention. Lonzo really wasn't close. All he had been doing is kind of like walking around on the court and, he wasn't really running or jumping.
Not hitting, not shooting,
He's
not getting in contact. Yeah.
So it was sort of this acknowledgement, like, there's no reason to come back, and even if he could come back, and he probably couldn't come back anyway. And so they have the appointment at 3. Everyone in the room agreed that he wasn't going to play anymore this year, and this
they still never said that,
right? So Rob Pelinka was in the room. I know the Lakers medical staff was there. Lonzo's agent was there. Lonzo was there, obviously. All these people were there. They all agreed on that, and so then the story comes out. I think Om and Shams Charania and Tanya Ganguly from the Times all have a story saying that he's out. But like 3 hours later, after the game, the Lakers put out an official statement that says he's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. I don't get it. Yeah. Nobody has given us a good explanation. Now, me being a reporter, I assume it probably has something to do with the idea that in the league, you have to show that you're making a good faith. You can't just say you're shut down for the rest of the year because we're out of playoff contention.
But if he's really shut down, it's okay.
Yeah, but he can't come back yet. He's too hurt. There's not enough time.
There's nothing for him.
So even if they were in playoff contention, maybe if they were in playoff contention, they wouldn't. They would continue to try to get him back.
Right, but they're too far out of it and been too far out.
And it almost had nothing to do with them being out of it. He just literally physically cannot come back yet.
So do you think that, and I don't know how far you can go with this, how much of this is the front office just not being truthful with in any sense?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I would say I don't think it's not truthful. I just think there's a sort of way of how you deal with injury news where you can be very specific. You can talk about how far, you can talk about a specific timeline. Like usually doctors will say low end 4 weeks, high end 8 weeks.
Right.
So the Lakers just try to be as non-specific as possible all the time.
Right.
And that is definitely
Is this inexperience then?
No, I wouldn't say it's inexperience. I think that's just a Rob Pelinka decision.
Okay. All right.
And all indications that I have that's coming from Rob.
Right.
And that's the way he likes to play everything. Fine, but then you keep getting into these situations where, like, literally 3 hours after everyone was reported, there's an agreement that he's not going to play the rest of the year. You have a strange press release come out like that.
Yeah, it's very strange. Let's go to some of the questions here. We got this is from This Toy Man 1 says, did the Lakers ownership cut back on the staffing the training staff this season? So that's a little bit of a but like. They have their training staff. Yeah. So how much of this injuries that we're seeing are on the training staff? LeBron has the worst injury of his career. Lonzo is injured for longer than they're saying. Kuzma was injured for a little bit. Ingram was injured for a little bit. We had Rondo was injured for a long time as well. Is that on the training staff?
Rondo broke his hand twice.
Right. So Rondo is maybe not so much.
And he's had surgery both times. And Rondo's the one guy who seems to come back faster than the projection. So he's
the oldest guy, right?
Yeah, he's old, but he's also really trying to prove himself, and he really wants to stay here long term.
So he does want to stay here long term.
I think he really likes it.
Would you bring him back next year?
I don't think you can commit to that before you know
what's happening with
everybody else. Yeah, with the other free agents. But the ones that I think the LeBron injury, that was a weird one, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was a groin injury, and that's why he's out today. He was out again today because of the groin injury. So
right, and so I think that that was I think that was kind of underplayed. And either, when he first went out, I don't think we got a real specific time frame on that, but no one really conditioned people to talk about it that way. And so we haven't really gotten an answer on whether or not he was always going to be out this long or whether there was some kind of setback midway through.
Right.
It seems like there was a setback based on the way that was initially reported.
Right, because he was supposed to be back so much faster and like in a time when they really needed him to come back.
Although some of that could be in a failure in the initial reporting, in the initial discussion of it.
Right, which is always difficult.
Correct. Yeah. And so that's where I think that sometimes it's on the reporters to get more, and sometimes on the team or the player to disclose a bit more.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Laker facts. Why not withhold info to throw opponents off? I guess that's one way to
yeah,
do
I mean,
things.
there's a lot of franchises that do that.
Yes,
there's a lot of
the
franchises.
Spurs are a team that would probably
they don't want to tell you anything.
Right.
Because you're given anything you say, then it can be used against you, right? Say as little as possible.
Right.
But I think when you talk about these injury updates, it is when you have a team that has so many injuries. Oof, that's hard. And, especially with Lonzo, I don't think it's done Lonzo any favors because he constantly takes longer to come back than it seems like he's initially going to take. Yeah. And so then it makes him seem like, why are you taking so long? Okay,
so what would you say to, because I get this from my brother, I get this on the comments, I get this from a lot of people, and they always ask me the same thing, which is Lonzo injury prone?
Yeah, I think he is.
You think he is a legitimate injury prone player?
Right now, so far. I mean, and it's hard to say that.
It happens so much when you're younger and when you're like building
into 3 ankle
into
injuries this year.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what it's always been, has been the ankle, just like Steph Curry. I'm not saying he is Steph Curry in any sense, but that was the injuries that he had. A lot of you do
really kind of have to look at his shoes, right?
Right. Well, his shoes are a big problem, and that was a lot of that's neither here nor there of why he actually does that, but that's a problem. He needs to go to another shoe company, and that's just kind of how it is.
It's up to him.
But it's up to him. It is his choice, but
he's got to feel comfortable in what he's playing in. But I think that with Lonzo, it's like, yeah, he's had a lot of injuries, and he's taken a while to come back from injuries. And the situation over the summer was really a strange thing where it was just really hard to get accurate information about where things stood and why it was taking so long for him to come back. Right. Why did he wait to have surgery? And I know teams in the offseason can't disclose quite as much about players because there's no game that they have to disclose, so the player then has to give permission. Either way, it was a mess this summer in terms of his injury reporting and where things ended up because we got to a spot where both off seasons that Lonzo's been a Laker, he's been injured. Yes, and he hasn't been able to play.
He was injured at UCLA. He was injured when he was in high school. He's been injured for most of his career. How much of it is getting into an NBA body, though?
Because I think a lot of it's
that's it, right? Because that's what a lot of guys are injured very early on. The game's faster. The game's stronger. The game you have to be. It's a longer period of time. Yeah. You need to be in an NBA type body. He got bigger over the offseason, and now in his training, and he's trying to be that guy, but he's just not ready yet, it seems like. It seems like he's a guy that's going to take a couple of years to really be in the body that he needs to be in.
Yeah, it's not that uncommon, honestly, in the NBA.
No.
Like, I think that usually by the end of year 3, you feel like, all right, they're starting to get their man muscles, right? Like, they're not, 21 anymore, and you can start making real assessments. Yeah, Giannis. But even, like, Giannis is he's much farther along than that. He was, 2013 draft?
Right.
So this is like year 6
and now he's an MVP candidate.
Yeah, but if you would have looked at him at year 3, you could probably see enough after year 3 to say, oh, this guy's going to be really good.
Right. But in years 1 and 2, you were like,
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be good, but it could go either way.
You didn't expect him to be this guy. So I think, we got to give these guys a little bit more time. Like Brandon Ingram, too. Real skinny guy. He's going to get bigger.
And they were really young when they came out.
Right.
Like, first 1 year at UCLA, 1 year, with Brandon, 1 year in college. Like, these were really young guys. And so it takes a little while for them to get their man muscles, right? They're not boys anymore, they're men.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I think by year 3 or 4, you should have a pretty good idea.
That's when you know. It usually takes about 5 years, you're right. So Shane K. Lee says, injuries aside, Luke did not keep this team together. Who does Momo think will get the head coaching job? And a lot of people are throwing out there Doc Rivers. I don't know if you saw the report, but the Doc Rivers came out today, and he said, I am not taking the job. I'm re-upping with the Clippers. I'm happy here with Steve Ballmer. I am not. So Doc Rivers off the table, not happening. So,
yeah, the Clippers had an option on Doc.
Right.
He is under contract through 2021. It was the team option on that. It always has been. And, it was just a question of whether or not they're going to extend him, et cetera. I think you can hear Daniel in the back.
I can hear. They can't. I can.
Do you want me to go get him? Do you want me to have
Daniel? Sure. Yeah, someone's asking for him here. So while you're doing that, I'm going to answer a couple of these questions. And then maybe Daniel can actually tell us who he thinks is going to get the Lakers job. Let's see. So I'm going to answer some of the questions as fast as I can that are on here. Overall, here on YouTube, Lakers LN. Do the Lakers fire Luke Walton? Yes, Lakers LN. They are going to fire Luke Walton. It's pretty much already said. Oh, he's crying. Poor guy. Shane, screw Dodger Nation, Lakers Raw, Team Greg. That's what I'm saying. Put it on some cream, making him feel better. He hates
the lotion.
He doesn't put the lotion. Yeah. I'm not going there with a baby.
Maybe not.
Probably not the best place to go. Donnie Ekbodi says, over-promising and under-delivering kind of sounds like our front office. That being said, how much of the season falls on the front office? I say 70%.
This sounds about right.
About right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so where do you put it? Okay, so
If we're doing a blame pie. Hold on, let's close the door.
Go right ahead. Lonzo looked much stronger after you. I'm just answering some things while you're doing these things. But can Ingram change his body the same way? Yeah, he can absolutely change his body. So
yeah, he can get stronger and he can get better.
Yes,
but I think he's always going to be skinny.
Get better. Yes, he's always going to be.
He looks like Tayshaun Prince to me.
Yeah,
Tayshaun was always skinny.
Do you think he's ever going to get to the size of Kevin Durant, who he's always been kind of compared to?
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah?
Maybe. Kevin's not. He's still pretty damn skinny.
Yeah, he is, exactly.
But if you look at Kevin Durant now versus Kevin Durant in year 2.
He was a stick.
Yeah.
He couldn't bench like 100 pounds or whatever it was.
People really forget. People really miss that. That you forget how little. Like, go look at videos of LeBron when he was a rookie. It's like
teeny. And look at him now. Gosh. Now he's a beast.
Yeah.
Let's see. Carlos Orozco, agree with Blake. It's kind of sad, to be honest. Blake Sinclair, zero cohesion in the Lakers from the top to the bottom of the organization. It is a problem. Top to the bottom of the organization, and I'm talking from front office, management, all the way down to training staff. There is an issue all the way up and down.
I will reference the Golden State Warriors.
Okay, great.
I think that what I've learned in covering the Warriors, I've covered them since the whole Steve Kerr era began. Is that everybody really feels like they're on the same page. Like, there really feels like there is a cohesion between the front office and the coaching staff, the training staff, even the PR staff. It feels like at every single level with the Warriors, you have a great person there.
When you're winning, that kind of comes together, right?
Yeah, and some of it's winning. I think that matters. I mean, people forget with Steve Kerr, he won right out of the gates. So he took over from Mark Jackson, was very popular with the players.
Right.
And there was some question about, like, who is this guy? One of the first things he does is he has Andre Iguodala come off the bench. It's a pretty big move,
That's
right?
a huge move.
But they started winning. They won like a bunch of games right out of the gates. Yep. And that really helps you put in your system. I actually think the Lakers were on that track last year. I mean, it felt like the young group was sort of coming together. It felt like
I mean, they got 35 wins. They're not going to get 35 wins this year.
It doesn't seem like it, does it?
No.
It felt like things were kind of coming together. They were building a culture. They were sort of built from the ground up and everybody together. But it's this year's it's a strange year. It's a strange year. Yeah. You knew it was going to be weird with LeBron and Rondo and everybody coming into a young team that had the young guys were the face of the franchise,
right?
And then all of a sudden it's like, not anymore.
Right.
Thanks for playing. Who wants to be LeBron's friend? I mean, that's kind of what it felt like. But it would have all gone away if they won. Everything would have been fine if LeBron and Rondo and Lonzo don't get hurt right around Christmas. And they would have started winning. Yep.
Well, I mean, that's to that point. They beat up on the Warriors in Golden State. They were 20-14, I believe, right around that point. And so, they were winning, and they were in the 4th, 5th, 6th seed, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Everything was kind of going smooth. LeBron went down. It all fell apart. And that's, when you miss 18 and 19 games from your superstar, you're going to be. But then you look at other organizations where they lose their superstar, like Boston, who has a young core. They lose Kyrie Irving for a long period of time. They actually just played better.
Yeah.
Last year, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. This year, they still stayed afloat. I mean, how much of that is Luke? How much of that is the veterans that kind of just shut themselves down after LeBron got hurt?
I think it's a lot. To be honest, some of it is on the players too. I think you have to acknowledge that too.
Yes.
When everybody got hurt for the Celtics last year, Jason Tatum became awesome.
Right.
Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, all those guys really stepped up, those young guys. We haven't seen that from the Lakers guys. Well, we've seen flashes of Ingram. We've seen flashes of Kuz. We see a little here and there from Lonzo, but he's just been hurt so much, it's hard to say much anything
right. He was playing the best ball of his career when he got hurt.
Yeah, for what, a 10-game stretch?
Yeah, exactly.
You just haven't seen enough of any of these guys to say that. I mean, there's times when I think Kuzma's the guy you hang on to. There's times when I think it's Ingram. Ingram's situation just got so much more complicated now with this blood clot issue and the thoracic outlet syndrome issue.
Apparently, it was very good. It was a good return on that, though, where they said that he's going to be fine and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, but that's the problem with how the Lakers have reported on injuries.
Right. You know what? That's a great point because they've been saying a lot of good things, and we don't know whether
everything's fine.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's going to be back.
And so when you do that too many times and then it isn't actually fine, it's hard to then put a lot of stock in that.
Right. All right. How about this one right here? I got Icy Zoe says, "Is Lonzo the most valuable young player on the Lakers?" So if you had to let's rank them. Let's rank the young.
Well,
players.
I would have said it's Ingram before what happened with his blood clot.
With his blood clot. Okay.
That's just a scary thing that
So about injuries aside, let's say who of the four that you've watched this year, and I'm going to just because obviously Zubac is gone, but between Ingram, Zoe, Kuz, and Hart. Rank the four of them for their entire career. What do you think their ceiling?
Ingram has the highest ceiling.
Yes, highest ceiling.
Then Kuzma. Yeah, I think Kuz has shown enough where you go, wow, okay. Lonzo to me is a really good player who is a good player on winning teams. Lonzo needs to be on a winning team.
Yes,
he is not a guy that's going to take over a game. He's not a guy that is going to go for 50 points or just light it up night in and night out. But he is a guy that makes your team win. He's a guy that winning players like LeBron James like to play with because he just understands the game. He plays it the right way. He's a fantastic defender. I think that's the biggest takeaway I have from Lonzo's season is just it's still a strange fit next to LeBron. They were starting to get better, but it's I see a couple comments about Kuzma's shot has been off lately. I honestly think a lot of Kuzma and Hart towards the end of the year is just them being hurt.
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting a text from my husband saying it's time for Daniel to go to bed.
Okay, it's time.
I will come back by the end of this. I'm just going to go get him to go to sleep.
Momo will be back. And we are at Momo's house and we're putting Daniel to bed now, or Momo is putting Daniel to bed. So please stay here. She will be back. I'm just going to come in here. And this is going to take my opportunity to talk to you guys and tell you basically what happened and why you're now here on ShowtimeForum instead of Lakers Raw. Because I did not come to. I had a business partner when I was doing Lakers Raw, and with that came different challenges, and we had a different mindset. We had a different vision for what Lakers Raw and what's now ShowtimeForum was supposed to be. Unfortunately, we couldn't come to agreement on how it was all supposed to work. We couldn't come to an agreement on basically who's going to have the control over what's going what. So basically, we just decided amicably to split and do our own thing. So with my team, and I have to thank my team. My team was fantastic and awesome, and they kind of pushed me, said, hey, let's just start all over. That came up with the name ShowtimeForum, and that's what you're here on now. You're now on ShowtimeForum, which makes much more sense. And I got here, Big Games James saying, I miss Lakers Raw. Lakers Raw is gone. This is the same thing. It was Raw. I appreciate that. Let's see. K Bios, will the Lakers finally hire a shooting coach? I think that's something that is always a possibility. It seems like that Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson didn't want that to be a case, or maybe that was a Luke thing, but somebody said that they did not want to do that. They were pretty much happy with what they had, and I think it's kind of it's necessary at this point, and you're seeing it. But a lot of it is also because of who you have on the floor, right? The guys that you have on the floor are not really producing in the way that they need to, especially shooting wise. Kuzma was supposed to become a great three-point shooter or a good three-point shooter. Josh Hart was supposed to be a 3-and-D guy. All these guys that Lonzo was supposedly getting his shot better, they just didn't add the shooters around that they needed, and eventually, it took forever, but they got Reggie Bullock to be that shooter, and Reggie Bullock isn't really shooting all that well right now because he's not being used correctly. So a lot of that is, yes, it is because of that maybe it's just the names, the people that are out here more so than who was on the floor before. Dame Ovo, with reports that Nola won't do an AD trade with us, will we go after other players via trade? If so, who? Beal, CJ, Griffin. I think you're going to see a lot more. This is kind of where I've been trying to figure out what the best ways to do it is, because most likely the Lakers are not going to get some big time name, right? They're not going to be getting Kawhi, most likely. They're not going to be getting KD, or they're not going to trade for AD. And you're not going to get Clay. Clay's obviously going to stay in Golden State. So at this point, who out there is worth the max contract that you have? They don't have that. The name is just not there. That is really important to have there. And because of that, I think you've got to go after guys with a little bit smaller names that just fit better, shooters that will go into the system better. It's maybe like Chris Middleton is going to get a contract, but he's going to get it with Milwaukee. That's not the guy that's going to be there. Maybe is it going to be Vucevic, but he's a shooter and a pretty good shooter, and he's a big, so you can it takes up two roles there for you, and he's kind of your stretch five. So, but he's going to want a big a big contract as well. But can you get him to go for a smaller contract along with somebody else that's more of a shooter, that's like a very, very smaller, lesser name, like Wayne Ellington or something like that? I don't know if that's the right call, but that's still someone. I got K Bios. Damn, so we won't get anyone. We're probably not going to get that big giant superstar that you want, and that's going to be upsetting to a lot of people, because this summer means a lot. It means a lot to what's happening with the Lakers and with the front office, because the front office talked about how they needed to make this year the big year. This summer, it was 2 summers. Bring in LeBron the first summer, and the second summer they got to bring in a second star. They were supposed to bring in Paul George, and that changed everything. We need to understand this. When they didn't sign Paul George, that changed everything for this Laker team from top to bottom. Let's talk about coming into 2019 with 2018, 2019 with this team that you have here, with all the young guys, Kuz, Lonzo, Ingram, and Hart, and even Zubac at that time, but LeBron and Paul George. That's a much, much better team. It's so crazy, but it's so much better. Let's see. Shane K. Lee, you should do your show at different people's houses, like Michael Thompson, Mace, Ireland, Trudell. I'm going to do this every once in a while. Luckily, Momo was so nice enough to let me come to her house, and she's here, and she'll be back in here in just a few minutes after she puts down Daniel. But I'm going to do this more often. I know George Sedano was in there. He said that he would do it at some point. I would probably have to go to him. Bill Ryder's coming back into LA. I'm going to go to Bill Ryder's house at some time when he gets back, because he agreed to that already, and he's a buddy. But these are all friends, so it's nice. Kevin Meteora on Instagram says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how detrimental would it be for both LeBron and a big-name free agent if the Lakers front office were to tell the free agent that he's the number 1 option for the team instead of LeBron? They're never going to say that, because LeBron is always going to be that number 1 option no matter what we want at this point. As long as he's on the Lakers uniform for the next at least 2 years, he's got 3 more years on his contract, but for at least the next 2 years, he's going to be the number 1 option, and nobody's going to say that. The way that they're going to put it is more so not, hey, you can be the number 1 option on this team right now. It's going to be, you're going to be the number 1 option on this team after LeBron leaves, or after LeBron retires, or after LeBron is kind of moves into a secondary role to assist with that. Let's say it is Anthony Davis in 2020 after he can sign as a free agent. Great. Yes, Anthony Davis would become the number 1 option with LeBron being there to go back and forth with them. Whether I think that's the right move or not is a whole nother story, but at the same time, as long as you're keeping all the young guys there, I want to keep all 4 of those young guys together. I want to keep Ingram, Kuz, Lonzo, and Hart, and I want them all to be there and build around and keep LeBron there and bring it from within. Don't trade them, because there's not that big trade that's out there, because Anthony Davis is not going to happen. Christian Boss FM says, Paul George's agent hates the Lakers because of D'Lo and Randall. That's why we never had a chance. And Christian, do you know who that is? That's Aaron Mintz. Aaron Mintz is the guy. It's Paul George, it's D'Lo, it's Randall, it's also Trevor Ariza, and they just don't get along. And this is, I think, a big problem with what you're seeing from the Lakers front office, is that Rob Pelinka is that guy, and Rob Pelinka is a former agent who does not get along with all those other former agents, because whatever he's done to them in the past to get his clients the biggest money or whatever it was in lieu of what their clients were going to get. So Aaron Mintz not happy with them, but apparently Rob Pelinka isn't very liked within the team, wasn't really liked within the other front offices around the league. He's not really liked in general because he's kind of shisty. So that's kind of a big problem here. Ray El Barbone says, Boogie, Boogie, Boogie. Well, yeah, Ray, Boogie is probably one of those guys that could, but then you're not bringing in Vucevic, because you're not going to get 2 centers, because that's just silly. So you have to find a couple. Maybe Boogie would be a guy, but he's going to want a much bigger contract coming off of what's probably going to be another championship for the Lakers moving forward. Or if not for the Lakers, the Warriors. They're going to probably get another one. Robin Yeezy, Greg, did the Lakers bench Bron because they heard Giannis was out to secure a loss? No, I think they're going to just start really tapering down on LeBron's minutes. LeBron is at a point right now. The Lakers are what? They're 31-40. I mean, they're in a really bad spot right now. So yes, they're just trying to lose games at this point, and I think that's pretty much what it is. This is a full-on tank. They're not going to get anywhere between 5 and 1, but most likely they could very easily get to the 6th seed. Not even that easily, but they can just – all it takes is loss after loss and other guys winning ahead of them, which is probably going to happen. Especially, look, that's 71 games. You still got 11 more games just to get to that spot. They will. I think that's getting 8th seems about right for what we're going to see. Premier BI says Kuzma is the same age as Giannis, Jokic, Embiid. Zoe is 21. Zoe has a higher ceiling. Yeah, Kuzma is 23. Giannis, I believe, is 25. Jokic, I believe, and Embiid maybe, but Embiid was also injured for the first couple of years of his career too. Kuzma was a senior, whereas those guys came out very early. Embiid came out after his freshman year, just like so. And Giannis and Jokic came from other, but Kuzma, yes, he is older. But that's why I'm not in agreement as much with Momo in that. Whereas I say Brandon Ingram has the highest ceiling, then Lonzo, then Kuzma, and then Hart. Because I think Hart is just going to be that guy that's just going to be solid throughout. John Ireland put it best. I originally thought Derek Fisher, but John Ireland said Courtney Lee. He seems like that kind of guy. A guy that's just going to be there. Just going to be there throughout, and he's 10 to 12 years, 3-and-D guy, always hustles, always playing hard, just going to be a good all-around role player, and that's who he's going to be. Big Games James, Space Jam 2, do kids know who the Looney Tunes are? Yes, of course, Looney Tunes are still around. They didn't go anywhere, so yes, of course they know who they are. D10010, we getting the 4th pick and trading for AD, that's the plan. That may be the plan, but it's probably not going to happen. Whether the plan is to trade for AD, the answer is they're not going to trade for AD. Look, everything that you read, you can't believe everything that you read, but it does seem pretty much you're going to have to, if you're going to get AD, you're going to have to trade Ingram, and now with Ingram with the clot, you don't know whether he's even able to move at this point because of that, which basically takes KD or AD off of the list, and they're pretty much done. I think I'm hoping that the front office has a little bit of sense that they're able to realize, okay, we have this core here, and you have to be able to build to win championships, and that's how these things work. Every team that wins championships builds from within and just grows as a team together. It just really depends on who the coach is going to be, and that's a huge, huge question that I'm actually going to wait until Ramona comes back in here to really see who she says is the right kind of guy. True Laker fan 702, replace Pelinka, go after David Griffin. David Griffin did a very good job. I think that he would fit well with this team. I don't know if they're going to get rid of Pelinka, although there's been some backlash on him for the way that he signed guys, some of the things that he talks about, some of the things that he says, where he's saying things like, it took months and months of preparation and doing analytics to settle on Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, and Michael Beasley. That doesn't seem like a good, and Rondo. Yeah, that doesn't seem like that was the best months and months of preparation there, was it? Blake St. Clair, harsh take, but I think Kuzma is hugely overrated. I think it's likely he is at his ceiling now. I don't necessarily agree with that, Blake, because what you're seeing is, yes, his shooting, it has been off, but he's starting to move the ball around a little bit more. And you're seeing him become a little bit more of a playmaker, which is kind of what you want him to be for this right now. When your shot's off, you want him to be a playmaker, and he's kind of doing that. So hopefully that's what we're starting to see out of him. Franklin Peanuts, I think it's time to move past this trading the youngsters talk and build this team the right way. That's basically, Franklin, you're right. That's kind of what I'm talking about here with you, is the same thing, is that, yes, we are moving past. I think that's it, because if you're going to move them, you move them for the right guy. The only guy that's the right guy is Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis is not being traded for the most part, so we're going to move away from that. All right, let's go back over here. Ray El Barbone, what do you make of Kobe's comments on LBJ passing him in scoring? I mean, look, Kobe was right, and basically what Kobe said was that it's not about individual statistics, it's about rings, and that LeBron needs to win rings in order to surpass Kobe in that sense. We can argue all day long about who's the better player, has the better most dog in him or whatever, but for the fact of the matter is that LeBron, while he's been to 8 straight finals, he has 3 wins in that time, and those are still really good numbers. Kobe has 5, and Kobe stayed with one team. He didn't bounce around. I'll tell you this though: if LeBron somehow, and they'll be better next year. I mean, I can't imagine that this team is going to be worse next year. It's almost impossible. But LeBron, they're going to be better if they win a champion. If LeBron wins a championship with a third team, if he wins a championship with the Lakers, you have to be able to move him past Kobe and everybody else. 4, it doesn't matter. He would win a championship with 3 teams. As much as I am not a big LeBron fan at the moment, as much as I don't respect a lot of the things that LeBron is doing, that's me personally, but I just don't think that's just how that's going to be. Let's see. Yes, AD will wait though from Ms. J Love 100. Yeah, look, you can wait at this point, but that's a two-sided dice, right? So I don't know if that's even a thing. Is two-sided dice a thing? Anyway, you can have Anthony Davis, you can trade for him, which is probably not going to happen. Or you wait until 2020 and sign him as a free agent where he's saying that's what he wants to do anyway. That sounds fantastic, and I hope that it happens and he just decides I'm going to come to LA. We've seen this movie before, though. Paul George said the exact same thing. I'm going to LA. I'm going to be a Laker. He gets traded to Oklahoma City. He loves it in Oklahoma City, and now he's going to be an MVP. He's an MVP candidate right now because of how well he's playing in Oklahoma City. So this is a whole nother one. Again, we're risking Anthony Davis being traded to a team that he enjoys and a team that he wants to stay with for however long, and maybe that means not coming back to the Lakers or coming to the Lakers at all. R. Henderson 311 on Instagram says, I agree the Lakers should keep the young core, but would you consider trading 1 or 2? I think Ingram and a draft pick for Beal would be a good trade. And we were talking about this just a little bit ago, but Brandon Ingram is kind of damaged goods at this point. I think they don't know what's going to happen because it's a blood clot, because he had thoracic outlet syndrome, because it was in his right shoulder, because it was on a shooting arm, and everything that goes along with that. People aren't sure, and until he's actually back, if we're going to be the Magic Johnson type, once he's actually back, then we kind of know. But it's not going to be settled by the summer where you're going to want to trade him. So Beal would fit perfectly with LeBron. Would Beal fit perfectly with Kuzma and Lonzo and those guys? Probably, but I think Ingram is 21 years old, and you're seeing what he can become when he's not injured. You can see that he can be a star. I don't know if I would do it. Beal is great. I just don't know if it's even going to be a possibility. Caustic 187. Ingram is supposed to have a full recovery, I thought. Yes, he is. And Ramona, you may have missed it just a few minutes ago, Caustic, but when Ramona was in here, and she'll be back here any second now, putting Daniel to sleep, her baby, she said the same thing. Yes, that's what the report was, but we've already seen a lot of reports that come out from the Lakers camp that's saying one thing, and then it ends up being way, way longer or way, way worse. They're over-promising and under-delivering opposed to under-promising and over-delivering. So that's one of the things. Do we know that Ingram is actually 100% right now? Do we know for sure that he's going to be back? Let's see. This is Loso. Ingram and Zoe almost untradeable, injury prone. This is also something we were just talking about as well. And what I honestly believe is that they are just too young to call them injury prone. I don't think that they're in their bodies yet. They're only in their second and third year in the NBA, and it takes a while to get the right body for the NBA game. A lot of guys, in the first 2 years, and this is what we said with Ramona, was the first 2 years of Giannis Antetokounmpo was that he looked thin, and he didn't look like he was going to be all that great. Weren't sure what he was become. He wasn't into his body yet. Look at him now. He's a beast. He's a giant. The guy is so good. And I'm not saying that Lonzo or Ingram are going to become Giannis levels, but he turned himself into that body. It takes a while for especially thinner guys to build into that body to be superstars. And so I think that we just need to wait. It's a terrible way to put this, and a lot of Laker fans especially don't like it, but this is a type of game that you need to wait on these young guys to build their bodies. Look, D'Angelo Russell was a decent shooter. He got better in Brooklyn because he was out of the spotlight, because he got his body up. He became more of a leader. He was forced to be that leader on a bad team. And look what you see. And now he's all of a sudden he's in the playoffs, and he's an all-star. So those things happen. It takes a little while to get in. It takes years, 3 to 5 years to be where you need to be. They're nowhere near their prime. Where's prime, right? Your prime is usually 26 to 28 to 32. They're 21 to 23. They still need a few more years to get to where they need to be. Let's let them grow together, because we're in a point in time where the Warriors aren't going to be losing when they have all Olympians. So let's really build from within and have a long sustained run, opposed to just bringing somebody in for a quick fix with LeBron. It's just not the right way to go. Let's see. This is Loso. Lakers have the worst record the last 6 seasons. Yes, they do. And you're also not keeping any continuity those last 6 seasons. Brandon Ingram is the longest tenured Laker. He's in his 3rd year, and we're threatening to trade him. And then it will only be second-year players or first-year players that are the longest tenured team. You don't build with having nothing there that's been there for longer than a year. You need to have these guys around and playing together for longer periods of time. The Warriors weren't good right away. The Warriors took some time to get good. The Spurs, they always just kind of are always just fine, or fantastic. They're either fantastic or fine. There's no bad or starting over for them. Miss J Love 100 agreed totally. He developed, and that's the key word right there. Developed. Let's see. Carlos Orozco, I don't think Boston is going to end up trading Tatum for AD. Well, and that's the biggest thing, is if Kyrie stays, then maybe they do trade Tatum for AD. And if they don't, we'll see. And now Ramona is coming back in. How is Daniel? How is the putting to sleep? Asleep. Out. That's all it took, huh? Mm-hmm. Look at that. All right,
Makes me sleepy too. You got the shusher on.
Oh, I know. Well,
you're like, oh, I'm gonna fall asleep like that.
Well, don't worry. I'm only here for another 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Don't worry. Then you can go right to bed or start writing or whatever. Yeah. No,
that's when I get my work done now.
Yeah. Now this is when
Once Daniel goes to sleep, it's like, okay, now mommy gets some work done.
Yeah. What time do you normally go to bed?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock? Yeah.
2 o'clock. Well, actually, 2 would be kind of early, to be honest. Lately, it's been more like 3-ish.
Right.
Because I have a lot of work right now.
Yeah. Well, you have 17 stories and having to go on TV and go on the radio. Well, don't worry. You don't have to come on Mason Island for the next 3 days. But I may call you anyway, so you might have to come. All right, so what a lot of people are wondering is because Luke Walton is gone at the end of this year, right? He's done.
I'm not going to say anything there. Because
right, you can only say so much. Yes, from what I understand, from what I read.
I honestly don't think that you can say that until it's like I said in the show today. It's like The Princess Bride, okay? You're either to me. There's no mostly dead here.
No, that's true.
I'm a reporter. I don't deal in
maybes.
It's a great movie. I've seen it like a million times.
Right.
You're either dead or alive. You're not mostly dead or
so he's
mostly
still
alive.
Technically alive. Okay, so then in that
things
sense,
change. I've just seen so many things happen in my life,
in
my career, that I never will go there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair. Okay. So then let's talk about Luke himself then.
Okay.
And what have you seen? What have you seen that he's done positively? And what have you seen that he has been deficient at?
I mean, I'll tell you, he's done a really good job building relationships with the players.
Which is a big
part
of being
a head coach. Guys on the team really like him. I mean, Rajon Rondo said to me the other day, he goes, he's the best coach I've ever played for. Players coach, best coach I've ever played for.
Wow.
Kyle Kuzma swears by him, loves him. I actually think he has a really good relationship with LeBron. LeBron, the difference is LeBron's not throwing himself in front of any buses, right?
Right.
I mean, he hasn't really had any public declarations, and that would be very against type for LeBron to do something like that. Okay. But I think the guys really like him. I think they trust him. I think what Luke's done pretty well is he's generally pretty honest with the guys. He's pretty real about things. I don't know who's here.
Yeah.
Hopefully my husband will get that. I don't know who's coming to my house right now at 8:15.
Maybe where I parked. I don't know. Hopefully it wasn't anything too bad. Right. Yeah. But so deficiently, what has been a problem that Luke's had, and on the floor?
Yeah, I think you could. He runs an offense that's this idea that it's like the Warriors' offense. In a way,
without Lonzo, you can't have the Warriors' offense.
Yeah, and it's also when you have a guy like LeBron James, for the Warriors' offense to work, the reason why it works is because Steph Curry is the type of guy who is really unselfish and plays off the ball and reads and reacts. It's a read-react offense, right? It's a
same with Clay.
Offense. Yeah. That's like I have with LeBron, right? And I think probably the biggest problem, if you look at how the Lakers operated this year and how they ran their team this year, was that they didn't start playing through LeBron from the jump. This idea that LeBron was going to be more of a finisher, he wanted to get out and run, and that Lonzo and Rondo were going to be the guys who were the point guards, and then took like 15, 20 games, and everybody realized, like, yeah, no. LeBron's going to play the way LeBron plays. How much of that is on Luke? I don't know. Right. I don't think it's really on him in the sense that this was kind of how the team was constructed, and there was this idea that that's how LeBron wanted to play.
Right, but he signed off on this team. He signed off on ball handlers so he could play off ball. Yeah. And that's what the roster was constructed under, without shooters, but guys that were going to run, were going to play with the ball in their hands, so he didn't have to.
So two things happened. The Lakers made an organizational decision not to give contracts out more than 1 year.
Right? Because Rob Pelinka invented salary cap.
Okay.
I'm saying that.
They made an organizational decision not to go beyond 1 year in their deals, right?
Yeah.
And that limits your market. That limits the type of players you're going to get.
Yep.
Could they have done better in assembling a team? Absolutely. I think that when you go and deconstruct how this team was put together, as I think there's been some really good writing on that. Bill Orm sent some stories, the K brothers for The Athletic, et cetera. All written about.
Arnovitz is written.
Yeah, Arnovitz. Like it really wasn't the young guys. Like, a lot of it feels like, failure of the young guys. It was the veterans who really didn't deliver. And the veterans that they signed on those 1 year deals, like, this team was poorly constructed. The whole thought process behind it didn't work out. And it all fell apart when LeBron and Rondo especially got injured. So, but they had limited options. If you're only signing guys on 1 year deals, that, like, what types of players are available?
Right.
Who's available? You're not going to get Bogdanovich from Indiana.
No.
That was a target of theirs. Even to go back a year before that.
Well, like, let's talk about Brooke Lopez. You had Brooke Lopez
in the building.
There's a few
inexcusable things.
Right.
And I think that what happened with Brooke Lopez and also the way the Julius Randle thing played out, when you look back in hindsight, are pretty inexcusable.
Right.
I mean, you lost Julius Randle, who had a really good year for you, but you didn't just lose him because he signed with another team. He asked the Lakers to renounce him. They didn't have to.
No.
They didn't have to renounce Julius Randle.
They could have brought him back, yeah.
They could have matched the offer. He was a restricted free agent. So whatever he signed, I suppose you don't want players who don't want to be there. So if he asks you to renounce him, it means he doesn't want to be there with you. But you don't have to.
No.
And you can make an argument there's a good business decision to just let him go.
He wanted money. I mean, he wanted
the Lakers offer was very similar to what the Pelicans did.
Right.
It was when I
but
remember,
on a 1 year deal, right? Was it 1 year or two?
I think it was.
I
don't know the exact thing.
Okay, but I believe from what I remember, and I could be totally off, was it was a 1 year deal. He took a 2 year deal.
Yeah,
with
but
the Pelicans around the same.
It's the same thing. It's a team option.
Yeah, but it's team option, right?
Or a mutual option.
And he played so well this year that he's going to get a lot of money.
So I would actually counter that. I think that he played just as well this year as he did last year.
Right.
I think he showed just as much this year as he did last year.
Agreed.
It's just a different market.
Yep.
Everybody's got cap space this year.
Yeah.
And last year they didn't.
Right. Well, last year when we were talking about Lakers stuff last year, not you, but like on shows and everything, and people would write in, they compared, not joking, they compared Julius Randle to Eldon Campbell in his contract year. That was exactly what they would say. It would say, "You're like, this is just like the Eldon Campbell years," and they were okay. Yeah, let him go because he's Eldon Campbell.
Yeah.
And now you see how great he's still playing, and he deserves the money. It's like, oh well, bring him back. So I think that there was a lot.
I mean,
I don't blame him for wanting to go somewhere so he can re-show off his skills and say, look, I can do this and
also,
make his money.
Also, he just didn't feel like the Lakers believed in him.
That's why you didn't give him a 1 year deal.
When you feel like, and this happened twice because you didn't do an extension,
right?
And then you didn't want to give him more than 1 year guarantee, and it's sort of like a thanks, you had a great year, let's go do it again next year. Right. And I think the other thing, and I went back and looked at some of my reporting on this because so many things happen that you forget exactly what you reported at the time.
Right.
I remember reporting at the time that he didn't think the role the Lakers had for him was going to be a good one. He didn't think the role he would have with this LeBron team was going to be a good role for him. Now, looking back at how this team ended up coming out, oh man, he would have been a monster.
He would have been huge.
Small ball 5 alongside LeBron in that lineup.
That can shoot threes. Wow. Shooting them much better this year. Yeah, I mean, he was. I remember being at the Laker facility with Mason in Ireland, and all I saw was by himself, Julius Randle shooting threes over and over and over again, and that was it. So he's trying to build that part of his game because that's the way that the game goes.
I think, when you think about LeBron and the way that he, there's a lot of running for the hills right now. Everybody's kind of, whose idea was it? LeBron signed off, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of blame game going on now of how this roster is constructed and whose ideas, etc. But one thing I will say is that having covered LeBron not just here but throughout his career, he has always been looking for a guy who can do for him what Dwayne Wade did in Miami.
Well, and so when so many Dwayne Wades,
he's a Hall of Famer,
right?
But when the idea that LeBron talked about high IQ guys, he's thinking about Dwayne Wade. Right. He's thinking about Chris Paul.
Lonzo's a high IQ guy.
He's a very high IQ guy. So is Rondo.
Yeah.
But when he talks about playmaking, Dwayne Wade played that role. Kyrie Irving played that role.
Right.
And the idea in LeBron's mind is that the offense does function better when it runs through LeBron. It just does.
Right.
It's just that he's a 6'9" power forward who's really more like a point forward.
You've seen his numbers every single night. 28.
To me, when I see LeBron, I see Magic Johnson. Yeah. He just calls himself a forward, not a guard, but he has this very similar game in the sense that he's a playmaker.
Right.
Offense runs through him. So the idea that you would go get other playmakers is really this idea from LeBron that he needs someone else who can make plays so that it's not all on him every single night, but that someone is not necessarily a Rondo or a Lonzo. It's somebody in the Kyrie, Dwayne Wade mold.
It's Kuzma or Ingram, and Kuzma was playing, especially in December. Kuz was a real thing.
Yeah.
That he was playing fantastic
and
off ball
injuries,
with And then Ingram was playing really, really well.
Yeah.
In the time that
he
was
flashes.
Right, in flashes, but with LeBron towards the end there.
Yeah.
So injuries kind of took that apart. But do you think either one of those guys can become the Dwayne Wade, the Kyrie to LeBron?
Okay, so Dwayne Wade and Kyrie are Hall of Famers.
Correct. So not to that level, but they're 21
do I think they're
to
Hall
23.
of Famers? No.
No, they're 21 to 23.
But do I think that one or both could be All Stars one day?
Yeah,
maybe.
Okay.
I think I've seen enough from both of them in flashes to say maybe. I think they're both winning basketball players. To me, Kuzma in his ideal role feels like heat check guy, kind of like Lou Williams, like a off the bench 6-man heat check kind of guy. That's saying a lot. Yeah, well, that's a great role for him.
Lou Williams didn't get good for the next until 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, he's in this role that he's in right now, he's perfect. I mean, him and Montrezl Harrell in the pick and roll is virtually it's unstoppable.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so
what else you got?
I was thinking about this, and I haven't really talked about it with anybody, but I was thinking about it. So, what do you? LeBron really is from Cleveland. He obviously loves the city, and the city loves him, and all that. No matter what, he can do no wrong. Miami loved him because he was bringing championship. Not one, not two, not three. They loved him right away. LA never really took hold of LeBron. People hated him right off the bat. You're not Kobe. They never really hated him. But has he ever, from what you've seen, has he really embraced LA himself?
Not yet.
He hasn't, right?
No, I mean, and I think some of that is he kind of knows it as a Kobe's town,
right?
So the idea
why not
is
try and take it, or try and just be there, but
you gotta earn it.
Show up at Blaze Pizza when you first get here.
So yeah, I think if you were to go back and look at these things, I think he should have probably done that.
Yeah,
and
it would have been huge.
It would have been big. Those things would be big, but I think for LeBron, it was a sort of I'll show you on the court. Let me earn my keep. Let me earn your respect, as opposed to let me demand your respect or ask for your respect. Yeah. Look, if they would have won, it would have worked out.
Yeah,
I think I just keep
here.
coming out.
We wouldn't be getting upset with LeBron if they were in the playoffs in the 5 seed.
I mean, the truth is what happens when you join a franchise like the Lakers later in your career, where all your equity, all your best years, all your accomplishments happen elsewhere. And so the fans in Los Angeles have a tremendous respect for LeBron. I was there the night that he passed Jordan, and people gave him a nice applause, but it wasn't like love. It was more like admiration, respect.
Did he raise his hand to them, to the fans?
Yeah.
Did he? Okay,
yeah.
'cause I didn't see it.
He did.
I wasn't sure.
I think he did.
Right. I don't know. I mean, there's
but I don't think it's just sort of like, to me, it's David Beckham coming to the Galaxy.
Yeah, just kind of ending his career. So, okay, so if you're saying
it's a golden years contract.
Okay, if it's a golden years contract, so then it's Jordan in Washington, where we look back and we think to ourselves, I don't ever want to remember Jordan wearing a Wizards uniform.
Yeah, it's just a footnote.
Yeah. Is that what we're kind of getting ourselves, or possibly getting ourselves into? Is
we'll see.
LeBron in a Lakers uniform? Ooh, we don't want to remember LeBron in a Lakers.
I think LeBron, physically and performance-wise, is far ahead of where right now is far better than where Jordan was when he was in Washington.
Absolutely.
I mean, LeBron, when he's healthy, is still, in my mind, the best player in the game.
Right.
I think in a lot of other people's mind, he's still the best. But we just haven't seen a whole lot of him this year because he was hurt.
Yeah, because he was hurt. All right, well, let's see. We got Norman Kane is saying, Momo, if you were the GM, what moves would you make to turn the Lakers into an elite team going back to the finals? That's a great question.
Honestly, I would just got to get basketball players.
Yeah.
I think this star hunting thing that they've been doing, I think it's hurt them. It hurt them this year. If you star hunt this summer and you don't get the players you think you're going to get or you want to get, I think you're in trouble. And you could potentially waste 2 years of LeBron James's prime that you won't get back.
Right.
And so I think there's a lot of, they've been reluctant to trade for players who have money left on their deals because you want to preserve the cap space. They've been sort of reluctant to give money to players who are sort of not superstar level.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to reconsider that. And you have to have a pretty darn good read on unless you have a great read on one of the free agents.
So instead of getting one guy to a max contract, would you take 2 lesser guys?
Yeah, just better not be Mozgov and Dang.
Right. Well, okay,
I mean, that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely.
In a lot of ways, like Magic and Rob Pelinka are doing the exact same thing that Jim and Mitch did towards the end of their tenure. And cap space is, the land of eternal hope, right?
Right.
You can sell cap space for a long time because it's like...
Every team has it, though.
Yeah.
And they have 2
especially
spots.
This year.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to sell cap space, if you're trying to sell opportunity going forward, you have to have a great young team. And you have to have to the free agency stage, you have to have a place where they feel like they can win. It can't just be, this is LA, you can play with LeBron. I think the Lakers have a lot more to sell now than they did back in the Jim Mitch era.
Right.
But a season like this doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. And that takes it to then Ray L. Barbone says, love to hear Ramona's take on the Lakers core versus the Boston core debate. So let's say it seems like the Anthony Davis trade is not going to happen, but let's say you have both franchises just how it is, and both teams are willing to give away whatever they want. Which team would New Orleans have would take the better deal? What's the better deal for New Orleans? Boston or LA with the young guys? It's tough, right? That's extremely tough.
Well, the
question.
injury to Ingram complicates that
changes
question.
because with the injury to Ingram, it's off the table.
I also don't know that you can count on Jason Tatum really being available in that deal.
Right.
I mean, if I'm Boston, I don't offer Ingram.
No.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't offer Tatum at this stage.
Why would you? Yeah.
Because your biggest competition was the Lakers, and they didn't do the trade with the Lakers.
Right.
So why would you then make your best offer then? Where else is the leverage coming from?
Which is Danny Ainge just kind of fleecing another team.
Yeah, it was pretty damn smart on Boston's part.
Right. That's why. Yeah, just
all
wait. We'll give
do.
Tatum. We will.
Yeah.
I don't want to anymore.
Yeah, now we can't. Now we can't because we don't have assurances on Kyrie.
Right.
They may have to make that trade at draft day.
Right.
You may have to trade. They may have to do that trade. I mean, I would think the most likely time for that trade to happen would be in and around the draft.
Right.
And if it doesn't happen then it can happen afterwards. Also, it doesn't mean it has to happen, but that's a normal time. So if you're Boston, I'm not putting Tatum in a deal before I know if I'm keeping Kyrie.
No, yeah, you can't. If no Kyrie, there's no AD, so it doesn't make any sense. So okay, best guess.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Anthony Davis next year?
I'm not going to do that.
All right. Okay.
No,
totally fine.
Can't do that.
No, sorry. You're not allowed to do that. The aggregate. Ramona says that Anthony Davis is going to the Clippers. Yeah. No, again. Sorry. That's just. Hey, feel free to say that whenever you want. I'm not going to do that. You need a ShowtimeForum hat. The Dodger dude says, "I would love a ShowtimeForum hat." Okay. You see that new logo? Check out that logo.
That's nice.
I like that logo. Let's see. The Dodgers. We need an elite coach, elite shooter, elite defender.
Okay.
So yeah, great. Of course we do. Shane K. Lee, yes, Momo. I've been telling people that Majinka are no better than Jim Buss. We're not going that
Come on
far.
Now.
Yeah, they're not.
Come on now.
Jim Buss.
They did get LeBron.
Yes.
And they did clear all the cap space necessary to get LeBron. And part of having discipline, and this is not me defending.
We got 1 minute, by the way. 1 minute left in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Part of having discipline is sticking to your guns about keeping your cap space when everyone and their mother wants you to go and give up said cap space to go get a better team. Right. So if they get a great free agent this year, whether, you know, one of the free agents that's out there, if they get somebody great, right, it will have been worth it.
Yes.
If they don't, then you can say it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's it. We only have about 30 seconds left, so I just want to say thank you all for being here on Showtime Forum's first show as the post-game show for Showtime Forum. And thank you very much, welcome. Ramona. I appreciate it. I'm so happy that you were able to help me out with this.
Sorry Danny awesome. Couldn't make his appearance.
I know. I wanted to
He went in and he was crying and all that, and I went in and he was... my husband was putting all the bedtime lotion on him, you know, and he wasn't exactly dressed, so you know.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I will be back on Thursday. Ramona will not, but it's okay. But I'll be back on Thursday. Thank you guys so much for being with us, and that's going to do it for us. We are out of here. See ya.